Hi, I'm Dr. Ransom. I teach saxophone lessons. I'm about to make a statement that may make some folks mad. If you love playing classical solos and contest pieces and you're having fun playing the saxophone, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to learn or play jazz. Of course you can if that's what you want, and I like playing jazz. I teach jazz. If you want to learn jazz, I'll help you learn the basics. But ultimately, it's your choice. I've had a lot of students that simply don't want to play jazz. Some of my very best students have been pushed really hard by their band director or their jazz band director or by private teachers who are into jazz, and many of those students have felt ridiculed, cornered, and bullied by the whole idea. I have even had students completely quit playing the saxophone because of the harassment. Many jazzers seem to think that everyone loves jazz, and they don't believe that anyone, especially a sax player, would not want to do it too. I mean, the saxophone was invented to play jazz, right? It wasn't. It's kind of like a religion, and they want everyone else to join up. Well, that may be a passionate approach, but jazz is a choice, not a mandate, and not everyone chooses it. Many times I've heard, "It's your duty as a saxophonist. It's part of the job to play jazz." It's not. You didn't start playing saxophone because it was a job. You started because you wanted to play. There are tons of professionals in all walks of life that started out playing saxophone in the school band and then moved on to other jobs, some of them music-related. I had one student that went on to college to study music therapy. Didn't like jazz. I had another student that later became a college professor of saxophone. Never played jazz or wanted to play jazz. I had a student that quit band after 10th grade because his band director hounded him so much. He went on to become a medical doctor. His band director had specifically instructed me to teach him jazz arpeggios and jazz articulations. That kid was amazing on saxophone, but he literally begged me in lessons to teach him classical repertoire. Kids don't sign up for band to make the directors happy. In many cases, they take band because they're required to choose either band or orchestra or choir. If they choose the saxophone, they have signed up to play in band, learn scales and etudes, learn a solo, and maybe participate in region contests. Nowhere in the syllabus does it ever say anything about jazz. No, they spring that on you later, and then it becomes a big deal. Private teachers are also to blame. If they are jazzers, they may make fun of kids that can't play jazz or don't want to. I had one sax teacher tell me this story. I was in the hallway at the high school between lessons one day, and there were these sax students down the hall playing their little furlings. So I went up to them and started playing a furling swing style, and you should have seen their faces. Their jaws were on the floor. Man, that was hilarious. I said to him, "Little furlings? You think furlings are little?" He started to, what I meant was, and tried to backtrack because he suddenly realized I didn't like his story. But that's how a lot of jazzers are. They seem to think their genre is superior to everything else. It's not. I personally was influenced by rock and roll guitarists. I just think their solo ideas are way more fun and creative than your typical jazz licks. In college jazz band, I had a habit of rocking out on jazz solos. Or on ballads, I would come up with a lovely melodic solo, not consisting of typical jazz licks. The lead trombonist behind me laughed and told me I was doing it wrong. Well, I was doing it wrong because I wanted to. But I was lead alto for a reason, and the audience didn't have a problem with me, just the lead trombonist. I guess he considered himself to be a serious jazzer. I respect jazz and great jazz players, and I understand that it's extremely complex and takes years and many hours in the practice room and on stage to become really great. In high school, it's all I wanted to do. But after hearing John Coltrane playing giant steps, I lost interest. I actually didn't like the way it sounded, just a lot of notes like he was trying to show you how fast he could go. I know now that was some great cutting-edge stuff at the time, and it had a huge influence on later generations. But it always seemed like the only people that were interested were other jazzers. Sure enough, the general public didn't like it much either. I never was much interested in playing for other musicians. Then I started noticing guys like Clarence Clemons, Tom Scott, Lenny Pickett, and the incredible number of great sax solos in popular music. They had a profound effect on me, as well as many rock guitarists, including Eddie Van Halen, along with Carlos Santana, Eric Clapton, and the guys from Night Ranger. Oh, and Al Di Meola, whose fusion never sounded like jazz to me, but who inspired me to appreciate that genre, as well as teaching me some ideas I could use in my own playing. But of course, the famous ones all sold out. At least that's what any self-respecting jazzer will tell you. Just look at what they say about Kenny G. Almost every jazzer just hates the guy because he became way more famous than he should be for his abilities on the saxophone. Personally, I respect him and what he's accomplished, and practically everyone wants to hear some Kenny G. Except for jazzers, of course. Anyway, enough about me. Jazzers mostly try to talk you away from classical study. A big part of the problem is that most jazzers simply don't understand the study of classical music, or they misrepresent it to you. They'll say it's old-fashioned or easy, or they'll say jazz makes you more money. Let's break that down. Okay, classical music is old-fashioned, but so is jazz. They've been calling jazz cool for at least 80 years. How is anything that's 80 years old considered cool? Classical music actually is very cool, but it doesn't constantly tell you so, unlike jazz that keeps reminding you all the time. Classical music is not easy. Those Furling etudes are just the beginning. Have you seen the Rascher 24 Intermezzi? The Karg Ehlert Caprices? How about some of the great solos like the Creston Sonata or the Bono Caprice en forme de valse? Or concertos like the Ibert or the Larsen or the Dahl? Man, those pieces can hold their own against any jazz. They say you can make more money in jazz. Well, that's true if you're willing to play lots of old standards for high-paying gigs in penthouses. But then they'll say that's selling out, so it's kind of a lose-lose situation. Mostly if you want to be a great bebop player, you'll play a lot of notes for very small audiences, basically other jazzers and your girlfriend. Believe it or not, most people are not interested in hearing your improvised solo. Not unless you're one of the very elite players. Yeah, those guys are great. But most listeners, by a huge percentage, want to hear musicians that play what the audience wants to hear. What a weird concept, huh? Jazz is great if that's what you want to do, but don't let anyone push it on you and tell you that it's somehow better than classical music. Most of what you do in jazz improv is patterns you've learned from a book of patterns or solos you've transcribed. It can be fun and build confidence unless you have to deal with arrogant jazzers, which happens far too often. Jazzers criticize classical music for stifling creativity. It doesn't. I write music. I have written tons of songs, both classical and rock and roll, and even some jazz. When you're composing, there are no limits to your creativity. Jazzers, on the other hand, have to play a certain way or it doesn't fit in, and they get criticized for not playing the right style or whatever. If it's not cool, forget it. Jazzers criticize classical music for being too rigid rhythmically. No, jazz is perhaps the most rhythmically rigid of any style. Your swing has to be just the right amount of swing. Straight eighths or sixteenths have to be metronomically perfect. Ever heard of rubato? That's where you speed up or slow down because you feel like it. Or you hold a note too long just to give it more impact. That's a classical thing. Classical music has experimented with more rhythmic variety than probably any other style. Jazzers say that jazz is more about feel. But when I listen to jazz, I get one of two feelings, either that's cool or wow, that guy is amazing. That's fine, but classical music contains every conceivable emotion. Now, if you really want an emotional roller coaster, you need to listen to popular music. That can make you cry or give you wings like no jazz ever dreamed of. Check out Pat Benatar's Promises in the Dark, or the Doobie Brothers' What a Fool Believes, or Night Ranger's Rock in America. Man, those tunes take my breath away. I know I'm old-fashioned, but I never claimed to be cool. Anyway, go listen to those and see if it doesn't move you. I know I've gotten off the subject of saxophone, sorry. Let me just summarize by saying that I'm tired of hearing about students being pushed and bullied into something they don't want to do, especially by adults making false claims and subtle or not so subtle threats. They need to stop trying to save their jazz band program or spread the jazz gospel at the expense of the kids. If you like jazz and want to learn it, go for it. There are lots of resources out there, including your school's band program, private teachers, books and collections, and tons of recordings. But if you're not interested in jazz, you don't have to learn or play jazz.